Welcome, everybody, to episode 4, Road to the Show. I'm the coach, Johnny Mack, and real thrilled to have a guest tonight. We've got Ej Johnston. Ej is the CEO of 3 Ice. He's also pretty, grew up amongst hockey royalty, so we're going to get into all that. But first of all, thanks for taking the time to meet with us tonight here, Ej, and talk about kind of your journey and the league that you're doing. We really appreciate it.
No, it's my pleasure. It's a treat.
Yeah, we're gonna have some fun, and we'll dive right into to get right into our topics here. So, growing up, for our listeners and our viewers, Ej's dad is Ej Johnston, Hall of Fame goalie, coach, done it all. What was it like growing up in that atmosphere?
Yeah, it's a real treat. Just having the kind of dad I had, seeing his dedication to being excellent at something, seeing his dedication to his fellow coaches, his teammates, his players, his organization. It's nice to see. It's nice to grow up in that environment. So you learn a lot through osmosis, having a dad like that. I think anybody that's got a dad that they look up to is very privileged, and it's a nice way to grow up. But then the added bonus of being around winners like Bobby Orr's players, Esposito, Johnny Pye, the Chief, Busick, just an unbelievable array of Bruins when I was really little. And then as I got a little older, you get around guys like Randy Carlyle, who won a Norris Trophy, and then Mario Lemieux and Rick Kehoe, who scored 500 goals, and Yager and Sidney, and all these guys throughout my life. You like to think that some of that stuff rubs off on you. These people are winners at the highest level. They're the top 1% of 1%. And so to just be around that, you sort of pick things up, how they carry themselves, how they speak, how they work. You see these guys showing up early for practice, staying late afterwards, watching Yager snap, a bucket of pucks an hour after practice was over off the post at a 45-degree angle to get that down. That says something intrinsically. And so to grow up around those kinds of people, it's a treat. And I like to say, I hope some of that stuff rubbed off on me. That's for you and your listeners and viewers to judge at the end of this. But I like to think some of it's there.
Well, I think it's going to be an easy judgment when we walk through what we're going to walk through. So, normally, I come on and I bring on guests, and I've had guys that have played in the NHL and some minor league guys so far, and I kind of go through their hockey DB, and I pluck out a guy maybe that I cross paths with somewhere. We talked before we came on, such a 6 degree of separation, and
sure.
So I can't do that with your dad. Like we'd be here for 48 hours talking straight about. I mean, just the you name some of them, but hundreds of
sure.
household names that we could sit here and have our own show about, and that's absolutely incredible. A couple things that jumped out to me of your dad's career was. He had played one game in Moncton, kind of, I don't know whether it was junior or senior back then, before he kind of, went through the Quebec leagues. What do you know anything about that?
I don't know specifically about that, but he was a journeyman. He was a 27-year-old rookie, right? And it's like back then there was only 6 goalies, no backups, one guy per team. It's like trying to, it's harder than getting a seat at the big table of Thanksgiving. Like someone had to die for somebody to get, promoted. And so he played everywhere. He played on the West. I think he played in Seattle. He played in Johnstown. He played everywhere. Yeah. And he won championships in one division, got promoted, won another championship, and then won another championship. He won 3 in a row in the minors, and they basically couldn't keep him out. Yeah. It was 27, almost a 28-year-old rookie, and then played 16 years in the NHL after that. So it's kind of crazy. I mean, he was retiring at 42, 43 years of age. It's kind of wild. So it's a sort of storied path, and you could probably, it's like that Johnny Cash song, I've Been Everywhere, Man. He played in a lot of places.
Oh yeah, for sure. And he
Ooh.
so he played, and for our younger listeners, right? There's no masks, right?
That's right.
You're a goaltender in the National Hockey League. You've got no facial protection whatsoever. And look at the size of the pads. There's defensemen that have more protection on their shin pads now.
Yeah. The thing that stands out to me is the upper body protection. There is so little. So after you get past the shock of not wearing a mask, that's the equivalent of wearing like a light parka underneath. And he talks about it. I remember his stuff. It was about a half-inch thick at best, stuffed with cotton. And he said he had welts all over him after every single game. And you'd break your nose, you'd break your fingers, you'd break your toes regularly. I mean, he'd play with cod sticks stuffed up there, and you break your nose sometimes, not from the puck hitting you, but a guy coming across with an elbow or a high stick or something. You get in a pileup, you just keep playing. He's had leeches on his face to drain, a closed eye because he had to keep playing. The backup goalie back then was the trainer, right? So it's just a different era and some medieval stuff that they had to do to keep these guys going. He is a tough man. My father is a tough man. He's a very nice man, but he is a tough man. His pain threshold is impressive.
You would have to be. So he's 87 now. He's a deputy commissioner in 3 Ice, and he's coaching the team. He's coaching the team.
That's right.
That's awesome. We'll get into that in a little while, but I didn't realize. So obviously, I remember Ej Johnston as a Boston Bruins goalie, and I remember Eddie. And I'm 54 now, so I grew up in that early 70s. Bobby Orr was my guy, and when I as far back as I can remember, but I was always a Leaf fan. And I remember Eddie as a Boston Bruin, and I remember him as a coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins. So those are the two kind of things that if you ask me, that's no research, that those would be the two that would jump out. I didn't realize he played for the Leafs.
Played for the Leafs, played for St. Louis, and then he had a cup of coffee at the trade deadline for the Blackhawks.
Yeah, crazy, eh? And you don't remember. And of course, Bobby played in Chicago. We're going to get into Bobby Orr in a second, but we have a little feature here every week, EJ, is I bring on, we have a junior Cub reporter that he likes to come on and ask a couple questions. So I'm going to allow him to come in. I have a little intro for him, and then we're going to turn you over to him.
Please welcome to the show our show's very own junior reporter, Jack.
There he is. Hey, Jack, how are you?
Good.
So, EJ, a little quick story here. Jack always wears a hat and a T-shirt and things like that. Being Leaf fans, we don't have anything Boston. And a lot, and my wife said it when he came down, and she said, you're a true fan, the way they went out again. Anyway, we didn't know this. Jack, do you know that EJ's dad, Eddie, played for the Toronto Maple Leafs? We didn't even know that, and you put that on.
Oh,
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So do you have any questions today?
Yeah. What do you got for me?
How was it like growing up with the Hall of Famer as your dad?
When I was your age, you don't realize what he is. He's just your dad, but that there's something kind of different about him. He kind of walks in a room and you can sort of see other grown men act a little bit differently around him. So you kind of pick up on that. But as you get older, you start to realize his accomplishments, and you start to hear the stories, not so much from him. My dad doesn't brag about himself very much at all. He's a very humble man in that sense. But other people start telling stories and recounting, whether they're fans or other players, usually fans and people that he coached. And it's just nice to hear. I've been treated in my life to hear unsolicited several hundred times how nice of a man my father is. And so that's the biggest thing for me. But being around somebody that wins, is a decided winner, and is around other winners, that was my favorite part. Yes, it was cool to go on the ice after practice and skate with some of the players and shoot on some of the goalies as a 7, 8, 9-year-old kid. That was a lot of fun. That's a treat. But just being around winners all the time, and these are my father's friends and peers and colleagues and players, it's special. to get around people that compete at that level, that dedicate themselves to excellence. That's the most special thing about my upbringing. I enjoy that, and I'm very, very grateful for it, and I'm very, very aware of it.
Thanks. What is the youngest age you can play 3 ice?
That's interesting. So legally, we can't have you in there until you're 18. However, it's not breaking news just yet, but we're working on 3 ice kids. It's going to be our version of the Little League World Series. We're taking a look at that in about a year or two. And that would be under 14. So U14s. So you could be 11, 12, or 13 on a team. And we're working on that for somewhere probably around 2025. So you might be right in the wheelhouse for it. So it could be a perfect fit for you.
Yeah. What is your favorite NHL team?
The Penguins. I've been a Pittsburgh Penguins guy forever. And I can tell you that my favorite players, not necessarily in this order, Mario Lemieux, Jaromir Jagr, Sidney Crosby. And I'm also very partial to my dad, but Bobby Orr was also a favorite. I didn't get to watch Bobby, but his speed and smoothness on the ice, and a guy that did it all. He won scoring titles as a defenseman. He would fight when he had to fight. He would check. He would back check. He would forecheck. He would make big plays. He would lead. Pretty tough for me to have anybody ahead of him. My favorite, and I think the best player in the world, is probably Bobby Orr. And then I got to go Mario Lemieux. I'd probably put Gretzky as third, which shocks a lot of people. And Sidney Crosby and Jagr are right there in third or fourth, for my opinion, of all-time greats and my personal favorites.
Yeah.
Cool. So EJ, Jack's playing, and in my research today, EJ's dad, Eddie, grew up in Montreal, Jack. So Jack was fortunate enough. He's playing for Team Quebec Prospects in spring hockey this year.
Nice.
So we're doing quite a bit of traveling back and forth. And so we had our first tournament in Quebec City a couple weeks ago, and he did really, really well. We're back in Montreal next weekend.
That's great.
But we have Paul Byron. His son is on our team, and Paul's one of the coaches. So
that's great.
Jack's been pretty fortunate. But thank you, Jack, for your question, and go have a bath and go to bed.
Okay.
And wear that Leaf stuff with pride. They have a great team. It wasn't their year again this year. I know you guys are not, you're getting tired of hearing that, but you guys had a great team. They entertained a lot of people, and they put a great effort in this year. So wear that stuff with pride.
Okay.
See you, bud.
Bye.
Take care.
Yeah. Oh, that was good. Good. Yeah.
Nice,
It's a nice, you know what we're trying to do, and I mentioned it in one of my messages, EJ, is there's a lot of podcasts out there that, great content, great guests, things like that, but they cross the line, right? At the end of the day, I don't want to hear, or I don't want my kids or my wife to hear some of that talk. So my intent is to, get a niche in the market where you can, and normally we go on Sundays, but we all had Mother's Day stuff going on last night, so we pushed this till today. But my idea is to have a dad and his kids, or the mom and the dad and the kids, and they're having a hamburger and they turn this on Sunday nights, right? And
great,
talking about things, and they're hearing about how people got to where they got to, and and you don't have to cross the line, right, to be entertaining. So,
exactly.
That's our deal. So Bobby Orr, and he was my guy, and as you know, I'm a power skating coach, right? I have a program up here in Atlantic Canada. And, a lot of times people will ask me, because I'm kind of an old school, I've been doing this for, upwards of 35, 40 years. And you learn how to do it. My dad was a figure skater and was able to, really show me the edge and teach it.
Yeah.
So, same drills I do now, I did 30 years ago, right? And you got guys with all these apparatus on the ice, and they're doing this and parachutes, and skating hasn't changed, right? Bobby Orr would be the best skater in the game today. Him and Kellen.
Easy.
Right now, absolutely.
Yep.
Right. And the equipment's changed. So everybody's trying to reinvent the wheel on it. Just watch video of Bobby skating.
Yeah. Like a Russian. There's when you're fast and smooth, there's that translates in any era. Era. Size we can talk about, but skill and speed.
Yeah.
His smoothness. He would have been great in 1920. He'd be great in 2040. He is. There's no denying it. He would be the best skater in the league any era he plays in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was fortunate enough to see him.
Yep.
And, you know, as a little kid, right? But it was electric. There was only a few players in the league back then. And they were on teams that traditionally a Maple Leaf fan wouldn't like. Guy Lafleur.
Sure.
Oh, like
Smooth.
didn't matter. I didn't care what his jersey was. Watching him go down the right wing.
Beautiful.
With the hair going. And,
unbelievable.
You know, so that was kind of, you know, where I grew up. But Bobby Orr. You know, my dad grew up in Huntsville, Ontario. Sure. And you know, Bobby's Parry Sound. And my dad is a pitcher. And I'll grab it sometime, take a picture of it and text it to you. But it's my dad they used to have back then in Ontario, the little NHL. So it was all the, you know, the top, you know, kids from around. And so the little NHL champions that year was my dad was the captain of Huntsville, and they won Adam. Bobby was the captain of Parry Sound, and they won Pee Wee. And then there was a guy named Merv Marshall that was the captain of the Bantam team, and I'm not even sure where, somewhere up in Northern Ontario. Anyway, so there's the picture of the three of them. This is going back to probably 1960, 61 in there. And really, really cool. So, you know, but yeah, he was the guy, you know. And I know
some time in Huntsville, by the way. It's a beautiful part of the world.
Yeah. No, it's nice there for sure. I'll be up there in June. So Jackson, a tournament in Toronto.
Good cottage country.
Couple days. Oh, beautiful. All right, let's move forward here. Just let me. I want to talk about you now, and you know, you grew up. You're around the game. Did you play?
You know, I still play now. So hockey's probably my fourth best sport. Soccer or footy, as my British wife would call it. Yeah. Golf, skiing, basketball. Hockey, honestly, was probably fourth or fifth for me. I still play. I play roller hockey now. I played last week. I had a hat trick. But, you know, there was no even thought of me playing at a high level. I didn't play on my high school team. Certainly was going to play in college. Didn't have the size, didn't have the speed, didn't have the skill, but I enjoyed playing. Grew up starting, you know, probably around 8-ish and played ice hockey until about 13, 14, 15, and then stopped. And then really poured myself into other sports in high school. I wrestled, baseball, golf, soccer. But for me, it's just a joy to play the game. Golf and hockey now, and to a lesser extent skiing, which I haven't been able to get to recently. But I love the game. I love the culture. I love the camaraderie. I love the locker room. I love the sense of fair play and sportsmanship, the toughness. The skill, the speed, the beauty of the game, you know, tic-tac-toe passing at a high level. You don't have to know anything about it. I have a British father-in-law from Sri Lanka, and he got hooked on playoff hockey this year, and he just kept commenting at the speed of the game and how quick they're doing things. He loves cricket, and it's special. And so the culture, the game, the skill, the beauty, it's for me, it's just a treat to be around. I love talking about it. I watch high school hockey, college hockey, you know, pro hockey, European hockey. I love it. It's great stuff. So quite honestly, I can't get enough. My wife would probably wish I took a break once in a while, but it's just a great thing. So.
Yeah, no, you know what? I don't disagree. I love it too. And, you know, I stopped. I played overseas and finished that up in, I think, 93. And yeah, I played some. I played with a bunch of real good guys in Guelph, Ontario, Quentin Steele, and played for them for about 10 years. And then didn't play for a long time. And then when I was in Saskatoon, I played in an over 40 league. And then when I turned 50, I played in an over 50 league. And the guys were like, "Oh, you know," and I honestly didn't care if I took a shift. It was more of being back in a room with a bunch of guys. And, you know, even though these guys everybody has a job and nobody's really that good anymore. And, you know, it's kind of, you know, but that's what I miss. And I could care if I ever played another shift, but I miss that. Right.
I had a roller game that I played in for almost a decade in New York City, right downtown, right in Soho. And at its height, it was probably 40 guys showing up every Saturday and Sunday when the weather was nice. We played outside. And it was just special. And I would say to these guys, appreciate this. I was kind of the custodian of the game for about a decade because I lived about a block away. And you just know that it's a special thing. And my lifelong friends, I have friends that I made in my late 20s, early 30s that I will be in. These guys are at my wedding, right? Yeah. So this is the kind of relationships you can get from this sport. It's pretty wonderful.
Oh, absolutely. And that, that's kind of what this show's all about, right? I want to talk. I talk to an NHL player, and it's almost less about his time in the NHL. Sure, it's about how he got there and the friendships and coaches and things like that. So, where was I going to go here? Yeah. So where'd you go to school?
Yeah. So grew up in Pittsburgh, and I went to Penn State. They now have a wonderful hockey program. Back when I was there, it was club, and they were good for club, but it was club. Now they've got a wonderful new building. It's fantastic. The Pagula Center, and it seats about 5,000, just under. Jumbotron, it's state of the art. It's absolutely wonderful. I just checked it out about a month ago on a trip to New York City because we're considering maybe making it a tour stop for us. And I loved it. It was a wonderful environment, right? We're not Ivy League, but it is such a well-rounded university. You have sports and academics and research, and I wasn't in a fraternity, but you have that side of the equation if you want to get into that. And it was just a wonderful all-around experience. To me, the Big Ten universities in the States, the Ohio States, the Michigans, Penn States, these schools that have 30, 40, 50,000 kids from all over the world. So you have the globe there, which is great as an 18-year-old mind getting exposed to kids from all over the planet. I really enjoyed that. And it was just a great experience. The academics at the time were wonderful. I was in the business school. I have an economics degree. I still use that today. I thought it was a really sound, fundamental business degree. And I just loved it. And I'd go to all the sporting events. I check out wrestling. I check out basketball, football, club hockey once in a while, volleyball. We were number one in the country, I think, in volleyball for, men and women at one point, wrestling. And then we were undefeated in football. It was a nice run. Wonderful experience, wonderful environment, great education, and just kind of an all-around interesting experience for me. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Yeah. So then did you move to LA right after college, or how did that work?
Yeah, I didn't. So I graduated from Penn State in 95, and then I went to Boston for about 7 or 8 years. Really enjoyed that. I like to say that there's no better city in the world for somebody right out of college. The whole world is there. So you talk about having an international community at college. You have 500,000 students in the Boston area within about an hour and a half, 2 hours of that area. And they're from all over the world. I mean, you got kids from China, Africa, Middle East, Sri Lanka, you name it. And it is a global community, and you can be poor, a young college kid or fresh out of college, $5 in your pocket for a weekend. You can have a great time. Great eats, great music, great sports, great college sports. I loved it. And so I was there working for big ad agencies. And then I jumped over to the other side of the desk, and I sold media for Fox Sports, 2 ad agencies. And I really enjoyed that. I was there for almost 8 years. And then I went down to New York City and was hired by IMG and oversaw their fashion division. I did all the sales, marketing, and operations for their fashion weeks. Wonderful, wonderful experience. Great company. And they had purchased these fashion events and needed to kind of apply the sports playbook to it. And it worked really well. And I enjoyed that. That was a fascinating world. I traveled the globe. I was in Paris and Europe and Russia and you name it. And really enjoyed that experience. And then went from there to work for Getty Images for another 3 or 4 years there. So I was in New York for about 8 years, almost 9. And then I went out to LA and started making television shows. I launched my first business, which was consulting to fashion weeks around the world. But the number one thing was I had their media rights. So I took them out to Hollywood and I started making television shows. Made stuff for NBC, made something for AOL, made something for BET networks, scripted stuff, unscripted stuff. It was just a wild experience. And I was out there for almost 8 years, and then went to New York, met my fiance, now wife, and lived there for about 5 years, and just got her back to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is where I am now. And it's been a great ride. It was 25 years away from home, and just big wide world out there doing some really fun, interesting things.
Well, yeah, and if I think about, you're an executive producer, you're doing all kinds of this media TV, film, that kind of industry, and then you grew up around hockey. 3 Ice.
Yeah,
right?
I'll tell you, it's all been a great predecessor to 3 Ice.
Yeah.
The fashion community deals in the currency of perception, perhaps the most in the world, except for Hollywood. And so that was a very interesting lesson to figure out from a marketing and positioning standpoint. But making shows, producing, having cameramen and executive producers and script writing and funding and business development and dealing with the studio, all of that stuff was great preparation for content making, which is what 3 Ice is. It's really a media company in the shape of a 3-on-3 ice hockey league. And so selling sponsorships at Fashion Week and running the operations and seeing that from the inside out, looking at my teammates physically building the spaces. Wonderful, wonderful experience. It all sort of dovetailed into it. Selling advertising and sponsorships at Fox Sports, just great training ground and a great overlap for what I'm doing, but seemingly disparate, but all sort of sales, marketing, content creation, production, operations, all sort of in that sort of 25-year run that I think prepared me really, really well for what we're doing here at 3 Ice.
Absolutely. No question. It's really cool here how we're, you and I met shortly before, maybe 2018, 19, and we had talked about, some of the plans and I remember, you were ready to go in 2020 and, boom, COVID.
Yep.
Now, half the places that you had booked had restrictions and you couldn't come in and you couldn't do this. And then the NHL decides to go into a bubble. So that kind of is a little bit of it was tough, but to come out of it, a couple of years later, the way you did, that was pretty cool. I watched most of the events. I loved, said it on my show last week. It's a great thing for a hockey nut in the summer.
It is. It is.
I watch golf. I watch golf in the summer. I'll watch baseball if the Jays are in the playoffs. That's about it. And if I get on Saturday nights, watch this and it gets heated, right? You guys have the little tournament and these guys played against each other 2 weeks before. They remember. So it's like an interdivisional matchup every week, or a home and home, or a back to back, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yep.
And that's it's cool because I know in the 3-on-3 game there's not a lot of physicality like in a 5-on-5 game. Having said that, it can get pretty testy out there when you're playing the same team 8 and 9 times and you're matched up against that guy and he's sticking you every time he's close to you.
That's right.
That's right. That's an element. Did you have any fights last year?
We did. So we had a fight in the finals on Big CBS. We had a huge audience, about 300,000 fans here in the States and probably another 100,000 plus across Canada and then rest of world. We had a pretty big audience. So, we like to say rubbing is racing. There's no fighting and there's no hitting in our game, but you don't miss it because guys will put shoulders into each other to get the puck along the boards. And guys, we had a fight. We had 2 ejections last year in the finals. It gets heated. There was a lot of money on the line. There'll be a lot of money on the line this year. We got $1 million. It's no joke. And these guys are competing for pride, money, and just the competitive nature. You got to remember, about a third of our league is ex-NHLers, and the rest of these guys are still playing in the AHL, ECHL, and every league across Europe. They have reputations. They're trying to get better. They're on television, and people are watching them play. Pride, money. It's a real game with real stakes, with real competition, and these guys mean it. There is no casual nature to this at all. It is go, go, go. We had tryouts in Vegas 2 years ago in April, and guys were throwing up on the bench. That's how fast it was. And it was just a great validation of all of our theories to see it come to life. We knew we had an excellent product, and we had an excellent television broadcast after that. And to a man, the players had an unbelievable experience. We give them a white glove experience. We treat them like the pros that they are. We've got Stanley Cup winners as coaches, and we've got Stanley Cup winners in the locker room with Sevi Latin and Doug and Sluggo, we call them, and Greg Smith. We've got guys that have won Stanley Cups everywhere at every level, taking care of these guys. And so it's a first-class experience across the board. So it is no joke, and it is a lot of fun. You don't have to be a hockey fan. You just have to like competition and sport of any kind, and it'll hook you.
Yeah, no, I you know what? I loved it, and I recommend it to anybody. We'll get into the schedule here in a bit. Craig Patrick. So Craig Patrick is kind of the, you're the CEO of the league. Craig Patrick is kind of the commissioner, the face of the league.
Yep.
Is that accurate?
Yeah.
We'll talk. Obviously, you got the Pittsburgh connection. You guys kind of, you would have grown up around him and whatnot. But the Patrick name is absolutely legendary and synonymous with hockey in the United States.
Yeah,
right?
if you don't know Craig, the old Patrick division, you have to be a certain age, but the old Patrick division is named after his family. So his grandparents, his uncles, he's in the Hall of Fame. There's 4 or 5 Patricks in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
Craig's got a gold medal. He's got national championships. He's got coaching Stanley. He's got it all. Yeah. GM, 3-time executive of the year, 91, 92, and 1999. It's just an incredible resume. So Craig brings to the table expertise. He brings to the table credibility. He brings to the table relationships. And he helped design our format. He helps recruit our coaches. He helps vet and source our players. So it's myself, my father, Craig, another gentleman on our team, Steve Baker, who played 6 years in the NHL with the New York Rangers and about a half year with the Devils. So he's got about a 7-year NHL career, but a nice AHL career as well. So we've got real experts eyeing this. Yep. And so when we had our training camp 2 years ago, we had 125 guys in the pool, and about 75 to 80 showed up for tryouts. And you had all of our coaches and that body that I just walked you through examining this stuff. It was no joke. You had to get through some real championship eyeballs and scrutiny to make 3 ice. We have an excellent product. We had 300-400 people that want to be part of the equation. We ended up getting 125 and then picking our 40 or so. So we've got an excellent panel, but Craig brings that credibility, expertise, and he's a nice man. And when Craig Patrick calls you want to take his phone call. It's pretty great.
What I remember about Craig Patrick, obviously watching him and his success, through my childhood and growing up, was I don't think I ever saw Craig Patrick look like he was upset. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Craig Patrick always had that demeanor on him. It was like, it could be a fire next door, or you could have just won the Stanley Cup, and he was kind of the same guy, right?
Yeah, I think that helps.
That calmness is great in leadership, right?
Yes. I had a very good boss by the name of John Skirmerhorn, and he said, try and avoid the high highs and the low lows. And I think Craig got that. Somebody obviously had that conversation with Craig. The ability to stay even keel, it's never as bad as you think it is, and you're never as great as you think, as they tell you are. So just sort of ride it and don't get too hung up in that stuff. And I think you have to, right? He's missed the playoffs. He's won gold medals. He's won Stanley Cups. He's, been defeated in game 7s. You have to have that. Otherwise you get burnt out. And it helps. It's a nice calming influence on a whole host of people, coaches, players, our executive team, myself. It's a treat having guys like this around. I do not take it for granted. When I'm in the room with our Hall of Fame coaches and Craig Patrick and these players, I'm very aware of the excellence that I'm surrounded by. It's nice.
Oh, absolutely. We got a question from Samantha. What she asked, what do you think of Alex Kyle and how he has progressed? I'm assuming
he's a great player for us. Yeah. He was fantastic for us last year. He's definitely one of the better players on the squad, and you can see his experience. He was on LeClair's team last year. I can't remember which team he's going to be on this year, but he's back in the league, and it's very obvious that he has got skill, poise, speed, and you do need some toughness because you will get you don't get run over in our league, but you get bodied in a way that you have to have the strength and the stamina to do it because it's a track meet and your legs will go quick. And so he's got all the right pieces in it, and he's a nice guy. We have almost to a man. There's probably a couple guys in the league, I won't mention names, but they kind of rub people the wrong way, but he's one of those guys that everyone's kind of roots for and is psyched to have in the locker room. And he competes. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for guys with a little bit of edge to them that want to win. And he brings it. He definitely brings it. So he's great to have.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that question. And so did you learn anything after year one? I mean, I think you know the answer. That you're gonna make any changes format wise. I think there's a couple extra teams now, so that's gonna change the schedule, obviously. But is there any major changes that the viewers can hear about at this point?
Yeah, from a rules standpoint, it's pretty much the same. We've got Dave Jackson, who you see on ESPN, sort of as our director of officiating. So he's that sort of refiner for us, and he helps manage that process. So he's sharpened some things up, but no fundamental changes there. The biggest change is we've expanded from 6 teams to 8 teams. So instead of every single week playing, all 6 teams playing in a 3-hour and 10-minute format, we're going to do what we did in our championships last year, which was 4 teams will show up. And since we have 8 teams, you'll alternate every other week, 4 teams. And we'll play 2 semifinals, a consolation game, and a championship game at each one of our tour stops. So that's what we did for our championships last year. And so now we're going to have 4 teams make the championships, just like we did last year. But instead of 2 teams being eliminated, you got 4 teams being eliminated. So it is going to be competitive from the get-go. Last year, I think you saw a week or 2 of feeling out, trying to understand what this is and what the cadence is and who everyone is and learning your teammates and all that good stuff. We've got 53% of our league is returning this year. So those guys will teach the other guys right away. Guys, do not wait. It is, competitive as heck, and you need to make sure you're on it. And so the biggest change is 6 to 8 teams and that format. So you're going to get about 2 hours and 10 minutes of hockey. And it's going to be faster and more electric, we think, because the product has improved. The players now know what they're doing, and the competitive nature of this thing. 4 teams are missing it. Unless you're the absolute worst team and you're out of it in the second or third week, everybody's going to be in it. Probably 1 through 7 will be in it till the very end. So it's going to be competitive as hell. Heck.
Oh, for sure. And that's a good segue. I made some notes here. I kind of went through the rosters, and I wanted to share, with our viewers who all the who's involved here, and I mean, just people. If you haven't done any research on this product, and I tell you the names I'm going to tell you here who are behind the bench, go get your tickets. So, Team Bork, Ray Bork. Another legend, absolute Boston legend, NHL legend, gentleman. You never hear a bad thing about him. Everybody loved him. I remember when he won that cup in Denver, I think.
The whole world was rooting for him.
And the whole league. You could have hated the Avalanche. Detroit fans were rooting for him.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? So that was awesome. But what's special here, and when we talk, you and your dad are involved here, and Craig Patrick's like family, and a lot of these guys that are. This is kind of a family, right? 3 Ice, you're putting together. You talk about. I listen to you talk about the young man that the viewer asked about, and you're proud, right? It was almost like, oh, that's my kid, and I'm rooting for him, and he's a great kid, and that. So I really get a sense of family here, which is amazing and awesome. In the when you look at a corporate, this is a corporation, like you said, sports entertainment and all kinds of different facets, but you still have that, right? And so Ray, I noticed there's 2 other players or members of that team that have the same last name. So how special is that for him?
Yeah, it's great. So, and to your point, look, the players and the coaches know we're doing something special here. This is a business. We're entertaining. It's a for-profit business, but they all know that something special is here. And if we can do right on the ice and do right by our players and our employees, the specialness will come across. And so they all get that. But Ray, having his 2 boys, Chris and Ryan, on his team, I think it's special for all 3 of them. And I think it's going to be a great story all year long. I think fans are going to gravitate towards it. Look, we got Father's Day coming up. My dad and me, working together, what a treat for me that is. I've talked to Ryan and Chris extensively about this. They're overjoyed. They both played in the NHL. Their father played in the NHL. This is big time coaching now for him. and I can't wait to see how it goes. I mean, I don't have favorites. I'm rooting for just competitive hockey all the time. But what a great story it would be if they're successful and you can celebrate that sort of father-son triumvirate. That would be great. It'd be a wonderful story.
It makes me think of the House, honestly, when you started to talk about that, and Gordy was playing, right? But it does, and that's that's what this sport. We had my little fellow out here a little while ago. That's why we're doing stuff like this, right? It's a thrill for him to talk to guys like you, and it's something we can do together. So then I'm going to go to Guy Carbonneau. Now, Guy Carbonneau played here in Halifax with the Nova Scotia Voyageurs, and I loved him as a kid. Right, he played here in early '80s anyway. Loved him and obviously followed his career. They should almost name the Selke Trophy the Carbonneau Trophy because he was, I think still, even with Bergeron doing what he's doing, I think, he's the best defensive forward in the history of the game. But in real time that I was able to watch him. And, I've seen eras before him and eras after him, and nobody's played the way he did, right?
Yeah, he was special.
Yeah, defensive. So, or defensive forward, sorry. Jeremy Brodeur, that's Marty's boy, right?
It is. It is. Yeah. And
cool
Marty, you'll see Marty tweet about us quite a bit during the season, especially when his son does something really well.
Yeah.
Jeremy had 2 or 3 weeks last year where he was just incredible. He stole the show. He had 1 or 2 weeks where I think he'd probably like to have a couple goals back, but he had 2 or 3 weeks where he was just electric. I mean, the great thing about this for the goalies is you can be a hero on almost any shift. The sliding across from post to post, making a spectacular glove save, and he's as good as anybody in our league. He's young, he's spry, he's got some really good instincts, and you can clearly tell that something happened there with his father sort of teaching him how to play the position because he's excellent. I'm surprised that he's not playing at a higher level than where he currently is, but he is an excellent goaltender, and he's been fantastic to be around. He's just a great kid.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Now, Grant Fuhrer, I mean, here's another just like, the guy when I was, 13, 14, 15, and they were winning cups and Gretzky and that whole, and Grant Fuhrer was just like, he was that guy, never had real good numbers, but, if it's 6-6 and, somebody comes down on a breakaway, he's saving it, and then Gratz is going down the other end and winning it, right? And he would just, and I bet you he's competitive behind the bench, huh?
He is, and I'll tell you, he was the first coach that we went after. So I was a goalie guy, right? My dad being a goalie, I like Mike Liut, I like Greg Millen, I like Grant Fuhrer, and Grant Fuhrer, Gretzky was this mythological creature that. I was 7-8 years old. He came into the league, and we only got to see him one time. And the Pittsburgh Penguins were last in the league, so they had 5,000 people in a game. And then Edmonton rolls into town, and they sell the building out. And every time Gretzky touches the puck, everybody's standing up. But I was there really to see Grant Fuhrer. I thought his mask was cool, and I thought he was this gymnast, acrobat, phenom. In net, he played goal in an aggressive, athletic way that you really hadn't seen before. It was, my dad was in a stand-up era where you sort of kick the puck out. Yes, he went down and you had to scramble once in a while, but if he's playing really well, he's just kicking the puck out, shoulder, glove, economy of movement. Grant was spectacular, and he was one of my heroes. Like I told Grant, I drew pictures of goalies and put them on my wall when I was little, and he was the one, right? It was him and Millen, and so it was just a real treat. So he was the first one to say yes, and didn't have to twist his arm. He said, "Sounds fantastic. I'm in. Sure."
I remember that.
You exactly. He's been great to be around. Once in a while we talk golf, but again, I have to sort of keep my fanness in check, right? I have to remember I'm a businessman. Technically, I'm their boss. Yeah. But it's a treat to be around these guys, and they're having a great time, and they're competitive. They want to win. Grant did not like finishing last year. I can tell you that. It bothered him a lot, and so he scrapped when he drafted his team this year. He scrapped his strategy from last year, and he took a completely different direction. And he's ready. He's ready. Yeah. He wants this.
Oh, that's exciting. I'm gonna get get hooked on this summer, I think. So then you've got, and here, this is going to be my prediction for the win. Okay. We got a timestamp on this, right?
Okay.
I'm going with Team Johnston, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
There's Bobby Farnham, right? Last year he was in the NHL, wasn't he?
I think within 24 months he was in the NHL. Yes,
yeah, for sure. I thought he was Jersey, wasn't he?
He's got a nice whatever it is. I don't have it in front of me right now.
He was in Jersey. Was he in Jersey?
He might have been.
Yeah, but he was. I liked him. I was surprised to see him. I thought he was still in the NHL. Like, he was a useful player to me.
And they won it last year. Bobby's team won it under Brian Trottier.
Yeah,
that counts for something.
Yeah, 100%. And the other kid I recognize is Cody Sylvester. And I remember watching Cody play in Calgary in the Western League in around 2010, 2011, because I was out there working in the airline business. And that's where I coached Makar. So Makar played for me as a peewee out there. So Cody was with the Hitmen. He was a nice player. I don't know why I thought Dallas maybe drafted him. Somebody Dallas, I think, drafted him, but he never really got a good enough shot, I don't think. But he can play.
I like my dad's team a lot. Their goaltender Alverson, very interesting, played in the NHL.
Yeah,
very interesting mix. Very interesting. You got Chad Costello, I think, on his team as well. Yeah. He also won it last year. He was the league MVP last year. It'll get very interesting. I have no idea what's going to happen. Again, I want great competition. Yes, it would be nice if my father had success in this league, but it's going to be very interesting. But yes, on paper, he has got a very, very good team.
Well, and you got to look at this too. Who's got the most games behind the bench? Right. That's right. Talk about, he's a wily old vet compared to
I got to tell you, Johnny, he's 87. He'll be the second oldest coach in professional sports behind Connie Mack. Connie Mack was 88, and he was still coaching in the Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
My father, when he talks about hockey, he is dialed in. I mean, he is talking X's and O's. When he's at the Penguin, when we're watching a game on TV or he's at the Penguin game, his hockey mind is sharp. I'm very interested to see how it goes for him personally. But they got a good team. They got a good team.
Sure. Next team I highlighted here, former Legion of Doom, Johnny LeClaire. Now, he should win too, because he's got a player on his team named Colton Saucerman. That's the best handle since Zarley Zalapski.
About as Canadian as it sounds. I don't think you can get any more Canadian than Colton Saucerman.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Colton Saucerman. So I had to tick that off and say, I like Team LeClaire just because of that. Right?
I can tell you, John's team finished 4th last year. They made the playoffs, and John is competitive. Joey Mullen ate everybody's lunch for about 5-6 weeks in a row. Just absolutely dominated the league. There was a couple wins here and there, but I can tell you, it sort of chapped John's behind the most, I think, because on paper, he had an excellent team, and they just couldn't get through yellow. Team Mullen, and look, he's competitive. They're all competitive. No one takes this lightly. The only guy I don't know about is Ray, because it's his first year. I don't know what he's like in the locker room and what his competitive nature is in this capacity. He's the only guy I don't know for sure that is getting after it.
And Mullen is that Patrick Mullen, his son?
It is. He was our defensive player of the year last year. He was phenomenal on both ends of the ice. He was phenomenal. Awesome. He has an incredible shot, and the hockey IQ is off the charts. Yeah. It's off the charts. He was always in the right position, whether on D or on offense last year, and just an incredible shot. It is a cannon, an absolute cannon.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, he's a legend, another U.S.-born legend player, right? Yeah. Period. He had did somebody just maybe Kane just beat his points, or he's close or something like that?
He had 500 goals.
Those points for U.S.
Yeah, I mean, he's up there for U.S. player. I think Hull might have more, but Hull's
right. That's what it was. Hull.
Yeah. But 500 goals in the NHL is
Yeah.
no joke. Stanley Cups, multiple Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
I think we've got something like 23 or 24, maybe even 26 Stanley Cups between these guys. My father's got 5, 2 as a player and then 3 as an administrator.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Stanley Cups in the mix. Ray Bourque has the least amount. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that is. Larry Murphy. And all he does is they run him out of Toronto, and then he just keeps winning cups wherever he goes. Like, I remember that, and it was like, oh my goodness, this guy can play. What are you doing? And Toronto hasn't changed, right? They were ready to throw Morgan Riley to the Wolves at Christmas time.
Yeah,
the poor kid was playing hurt, and then he was the best defenseman out of any team in the playoffs through the 2 rounds that they played. It's unbelievable.
Larry Murphy, not just a steady Eddie, but scored a ton of points.
Oh.
And I got to tell you, as a coach, he is the most analytical. At least he's the most vociferous and verbalizes his thought process the most. Oh, I apologize.
Oh, no worries.
He is the most interesting coach from my perspective, behind the scenes, the analysis, the over-analysis, the thinking that he puts into almost every decision about his team and his strategy. And he's great. He's great in the draft room because when his pick gets picked, he gets really upset. I really enjoy his stress level. For lack of a better word, he's just so into it and verbalizes it. I think it's great. Craig and I sort of just enjoy it. We sort of listen to him verbalize all of his challenges and his thinking and his processes. And it's great. It's great. He's fantastic.
That's awesome. And then, so the last team Patrick, and I do recognize, and I think a lot of viewers and listeners will recognize Brandon Peary. 276 games in the show. I remember Brandon as a junior playing Tier 2 for the Streetsville Derbies in Toronto, the Metro Toronto, junior league, or OPJHL, I think it was called then. Anyway, he was a nice player then. I think he went to college, and then he was in Chicago, Vegas. But he can play. He can score goals.
Oh yeah,
and fast.
We've got a different game, sort of played with the same rules, if you will. We are not looking for that 6'4", 6'5", 220-pound body type.
Right.
Our guys are these super quick water bugs with great hands and wheels that, yes, they've played in the NHL, but they're not the kind of guys that are going to do the dump and chase game, or one of my favorite players, Patrick Hornquist, or, I'm dating myself, Kerr, or, these guys that sit in front of the net, Wade Simmons, that take the abuse in front of the net and sort of tip and chip. That's not our guy. So they're not going to necessarily last for a long time in the NHL. But if the NHL played 3-on-3, let's say, for 10 to 15 minutes, somehow magically we waved a wand, these guys would be in the NHL. There are a bunch of Connor Shearys out there that can't really ever stick because they're sort of forced to check and grind and dump and chase. And when you give them a chance, as Connor Sheary did, to get on that second or first line with Sidney or Malkin and show your kind of hands and your kind of wheels and your kind of spacing, that is our guy. And there's a bunch of our guys, and he's one of them. The just great wheels, great hands, great hockey IQ, the tic-tac-toe passing. We don't play the dump and chase, smash it in and go and dig it out. It's a track meet. And so it's a different body type, and it's a different type of player that we're looking for. That fast Ferrari Maserati that zips around the ice is our guy.
Well, and you're bang on. You get a lot of these guys that are in that mold, and if they get in with the wrong organization, you get in with a Toronto that's got, they got a top 9, right? So you're getting 8 minutes, you're basically never starting in the offensive zone. You're taking all the face-offs in the D zone. That kind of thing, right? You're dumping it in and then putting the good guys on. So if they don't get that, Nick Robertson is a perfect example. I know he got hurt this year, but he just can't seem to, get in there because he's not put in positions to succeed. But what you're saying is that these guys are all in positions to succeed.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And there's thousands of guys that have come through the NHL and have that same story. I'll give you one. My father played with a guy, Claude LaRose. His son, Guy, played in Toronto. Sure. And he would touch the puck, and the whole stadium would go, Guy. And he was one of those guys that was fast and quick and had great hands, but he was forced to check. And so his NHL career was a cup of coffee because he had to play a different role than his strengths. And so we let these guys play to their strengths, and they can showcase. I mean, again, the tic-tac-toe passing and the speed of our game, these guys would be NHLers if the NHL had more 3-on-3 opportunities. And we're lucky to have them.
Oh, absolutely. So now I just want to I want to walk through the schedule with you. I'm going to put the graphic up here.
Okay.
Can you kind of walk us through it? The different I can't see it. My glasses.
That's okay.
Yeah, but
I've got it. So we start out in Pittsburgh. Last year we played at PPG Paints Arena. Unfortunately, they're doing a renovation, but more importantly, the Division I hockey program here in Pittsburgh, which is Robert Morris University, is coming back online. They were kind of unceremoniously shut down a couple of years ago, and the whole community here in Pittsburgh, from Ryan Malone to the media to anybody that was involved in hockey, the on the bench guys, they all came down, and we've all been sort of rallying around their program to try and get it back. And so we're going to play at Robert Morris's building.
Oh, wow.
It's a smaller building for us, but we're donating a significant portion of our proceeds to their D1 program. We're going to put their people on our television broadcast and raise awareness, and we're promoting it all around Pittsburgh and throughout our marketing initiatives. So we're excited about that. We think we're going to do some good and have a great event. We'll probably be sold out there. The place only holds about 12 or 1,300. So we'll pack that place. It'll be a great atmosphere for our players. And then we move on to Hershey. And you're going to have, in Pittsburgh, by the way, my dad is coaching against Craig Patrick. So that's two legends going at it.
Pretty cool.
And we're doing some local media next week for that. It's about an hour-long interview for those guys. And then we move into Hershey, which we did really well there in our first season. We had a nice crowd. The fans loved it. They basically begged us back, and we couldn't say no. And you've got the return of Chris Bork. So Ray Bork will be coaching his two sons there, and you're going to have a nice matchup there, and it'll be sort of a homecoming for Chris. They've retired his number in Hershey, so that's great. And then we move on to Grand Rapids in Michigan, Van Andel Arena on the 12th of July. And it's just a great hockey market, right? So
unbelievable. Yeah.
We've got, Mid-Atlantic, we've got the Great Lakes region, we've got New England when we go to Boston, but after that we go to Newark and we're playing the Devils building.
Nice.
So on the 19th, our fourth week this season, we're going to play where the Devils play. We were hoping for them to go a little further because it's nice for us because they've been promoting us in their games to their fans on the Jumbotron and throughout their marketing initiatives. But we're just excited. We have a few NHL buildings in our mix every season, and that's one of them. It's a great place to play, the New York metropolitan area. And they had a heck of a team this year, so it's nice. Their fan base is sort of juiced up for that. And then we go to Boston. We're playing in BU at Gannis Arena. Micah Ruzioni is going to come down and say hello, and we'll have the Borks playing there. And there's a lot of Boston guys. We got BC guys.
What date?
That is Boston University, BU, at a Gannis Arena on 7/26. That's our fifth week.
Okay, July 26th.
That's right.
We have a lot of listeners around Atlantic Canada and along the East Coast. That's not too far.
Come on down, guys. Come on down. You're going to have a bunch of BC guys and a bunch of BU guys. It's going to be pretty great. So Joe Whitney played in the NHL. He's a BC guy. There's a lot. Paul Carey played for the Bruins. He's in there. There's a lot of really good. I think Bobby Farnham is playing in Boston as well. So I got to double check that. But it's pretty great. That's a great college building. It's a great barn to play in. So we like to have college. We like to have pro or NHL, I should say. And then we like to have AHL in the mix. Next, we go to Tennessee. We played in Bridgestone last year, but the Predators just opened up a brand new state-of-the-art 6,000-seater just north of Nashville in Clarksville, Tennessee. And we're the first event in this building. They broke ground about a year ago, and we are the first official event in this building. I think we've already sold. We're about 2 months out. I think we've already sold 400 or 500 tickets for that. We expect to be really close to packed in that place. So that'll be fun. And Nashville is just a heck of a town. So it's about 40 minutes south of us. It's just a wonderful tour stop. And then you've got the championships in the Flyers building at Wells Fargo on August 12th. We're playing on big CBS. Last year, we had 300,000 fans watching the States and probably another 200,000 or 300,000 around the world. We expect that to be even bigger and better this year. We're playing on Wednesdays, all of our regular season, but that on the 12th is a Saturday in the afternoon. And we can't wait. And the Flyers organization has been wonderful. They got some good news with some new hires this week, but they've been fantastic to us. So we've got a couple NHL buildings, a couple AHL buildings in the mix, and a couple college buildings in the mix. We really like our schedule, and we love these towns. We absolutely love them.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, you can't go wrong with any of those places that you're going here. That's amazing. So format, we talked about, the championship in Philly. We got our networks out of Philly, so I know that we have a ton of people through the Philadelphia area. We'll get sharing the show, and what we'll do is we'll make up some clips too, and we can promote some stuff.
Terrific.
Cross utilize that. Future plans. So, Europe. Ever talk about 3-Ice Europe?
Yeah. So for us, we have fairly grand expansion plans. We're going to do it in the right way. We're going to do it at the right pace. We're a business as well. But the opportunity for 3-Ice Kids, our Little League World Series, is there. I can tell you that we think an opening act of women playing in our league, dropping the puck roughly an hour before the men do in our same buildings, we think it's a great model to expose the talent and the fun and the game, the women's game, to a new fan base. So that's in there. We've got 3-Ice World Cup that we're taking a look at now. We're talking to some folks in Europe to do a country versus country version of this thing, a made-for-TV event that takes place in 2 or 3 days. But we think that could be pretty fantastic. So a 3-Ice Sweden versus a 3-Ice Germany, Finland, 3-Ice Czech Republic, 3-Ice UK. It's a really interesting mix. And again, because you have a different body type that isn't necessarily the 6'2", 6'3", 6'4" body type, you can get some other countries in here that could surprise. If you can find 6 guys that can fly, that's not a lot. There might be 4 or 5 Brits that could absolutely fly and could surprise the Swedes or the Finns or you name it. And then last but not least, at some point, we would love to have a simultaneous league on a different night of the week in 3-Ice Canada. And we'll have 8 tour stops across that, plus our championship, 8 tour stops across America, plus our championship, and then have a Champions League and have those guys square off to figure out who the best is in the 3-on-3 game on the planet.
Wow, that's so cool. And, you're right. Some of those leagues, you got a lot of ex-players that stayed and stayed in the game. And, England, there's a real good level of hockey over there now. That's amazing. So tell me, one last question, and
Sure.
then I got to thank our sponsors. But what's your opinion on the NHL playoffs this year? And does 3-Ice? Are you a competitor of the NHL, or are you help us understand what the relationship is, if there is one?
Yeah, I'll take it in reverse order. We do not consider ourselves competitive. We consider ourselves additive to the NHL. And I've got a lot of friends over there, and we've had nice discussions with them, and they agree. We are additive. We are in their off season. We are June, July, and August. They finish in June. They don't start up again until essentially October. If you want to get technical, the training camps start in September. But there's no overlap, and there's no competition on any level, talent, you name it. So it's a nice sort of symbiotic relationship. So if you like hockey, we give it to you year round. If you like live action sports and you don't want to watch, baseball or golf because that's a slightly older audience, we're a much younger audience. It's a nice fit for us. So that's sort of the position there. And then the first part of your question, you have to remind me again, please.
It's the playoffs. What do you think?
Playoffs. Excellent. The first round of the playoffs every year is electric, but this year there was something about the upsets, the game sevens, watching Draisaitl do what he did in the first round. It just incredible. Just incredible sport, the speed of everything, the intensity, there's the right level of animosity and sort of aggressiveness going on the ice, and just speed and skill. Any hockey fan knows that the regular season's at one level, and once in a while you get a glimpse of what it could be. The playoffs just jump to the next level. And I feel like we got an extra 5-10%. I felt like there was another gear in the first round. The second round's excellent. There's always a little bit of a lull, right? Every hockey fan, you get so much hockey. You got to kind of pump the brakes a little bit for the second round, and then you get back into it in the third because the stakes are so much bigger. I absolutely love the 5-on-5 game. I will always be an NHL fan. I love the speed, the pace, the body contact, the hitting. That Gudis hit the other day in Toronto was just wow. It was unbelievable. So that kind of hockey, I love that too. So for me, the playoffs this year, I don't know if I'm imagining it, but I thought the first round was even better than it was in the last year or two. I don't know if I'm making that up. It just felt that way. I've taken a little break in the second round. I've only watched maybe every other night. But I can tell you the hockey for me has just been absolutely electric, and the ratings are there. I mean, you're talking about in the States, you're talking about 1.5 million to 2 million people watching this, and I'm sure it's roughly the same in Canada. These are very good numbers that prove my point that the hockey has been fantastic.
Oh yeah, I mean, what I noticed in that first round, like you said, was it reminded me back 20 years, right? It was more in your face smash, you know what I mean, than it has been in the last 20 years, right? There was big boy hockey. I mean, there was some vicious plays. There was things that were done on a regular basis in that Florida Boston series that would have been suspendable 5 years ago.
Sure.
Guys getting thrown. Kachuk might have been suspended 6 or 7 times in that series for his antics. But right, as a hockey fan and traditionalist, so to speak, you want that element, right? Like you said, a little bit more intense, a little faster.
And you got an 8 seed.
To do that too.
And you got an 8 seed right now. I mean, you're talking Boston with a historic regular season, and got upset by an 8 seed who looks like they might be the best in the East. Now, Carolina is like a python that slowly but surely chokes you out. It's just, period after period, it gets tighter and tighter. They've just played a nice game, and Brindamore's really got that team believing. They play his system. They believe, and they have enough skill to bury the puck when they get the chances. Jordan Staal seems to be ageless, and Aho, and there's just a lot of talent on that team too. But the 8 seed, if they get to the finals and win it all, what a great story that would be. For me personally, I'm rooting for that. I think that's a great story. I also have a soft spot for the expansion team. So the Seattle Vegas thing, that'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. But to me, the Florida Panthers, if they can win it all at an 8 seed, that's just great for hockey, because everybody who can squeak into the playoffs can say, well, hold on a sec. They play the games for a reason. I'm a Penguin fan. I thought if we snuck into the 8th round, I'm an optimist by nature. I didn't think we had a chance to beat that Boston team. But Florida, I said, if Florida gets in, they beat them twice in the regular season, and they are playing good enough hockey right now that they can get a belief. Look out. They win a game or two in the first 1 or 2 or 3 games, that could be a series. Lo and behold.
Well, and if Pittsburgh had just won in Chicago, we wouldn't be talking about Florida now.
Please don't get me started. I don't know how you lose against the last place team that wasn't playing for anything other than the Bedard ticket stub.
Right.
I don't get it. But that's another discussion for another time.
Yeah, cool. So I'm just going to thank our sponsors, and then we'll wrap up. EJ. So we're brought to you by the Old City Sports Network. Go to oldcitysports.com for all your favorite OCSN podcasts, articles, and much more. Our show is brought to you by Fanatics, Rowan eBrand, Norse Beards, Righteous Felon, and we're also brought to you by Sterling Pig Brewery, the Neshaminy Creek Brewing Company, Hangman Brewing, and Bright Path Brewing. Their links are in the description. So thank you again, my friend. And, I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm excited. I'm sure our listeners and viewers will be excited. And, let's, all the best to you guys. I wish you nothing but success. And, we'll be watching closely.
Terrific. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.